Jama'a masu kallon mu barkanmu da warhaka. Barkanmu da sake kasancewa da ku a wani sabon shiri na Babban Zaure. Shirin Babban Zaure kamar yadda kuka sani shiri ne da muke waiwaye ko hange akan al'amura ko abubuwan da suka shafi wasu waɗanda suka gabace mu domin ya zama abin koyi ko kuma darasi ga na bayanmu. Amma shirin a yau ya canza akala. Ga waɗanda suke bibiyar shirinmu yau da kullum za su iya tuna cewa a kowane karfe 7 na maraicen Juma'a akwai shiri da muke nunawa na musamman wato Down in the Creek. Masu wannan shiri sun kawo mana ziyara har cikin garin Kano, kuma banda cikin garin Kano har ɗakunan shirye-shiryenmu. A dalilin haka ne muka ga ya kamata mu tattauna tare da su domin masu bibiyan wannan shiri su ji yaya aka yi, me yasa aka fara wannan shiri, sannan meye alfanun wannan shiri musamman ga matasanmu. A cikin ɗakin shirye-shiryenmu na yau akwai Fada Obi wanda shine chairman na wannan shiri na Down in the Creek. Sannan akwai Bellema Papemi wanda shine yake ɗaukan umarnin wannan shiri. Ban san ko na faɗi wannan sunaye daidai ba, amma in mun fara shirin za ku ji inda gyara a sunayen za su gaya muku. Barkanku da zuwa wannan shirin.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Zan fara da tambayar Reverend Father domin mu ji meye dalilin da yasa aka fara shirin wannan shiri. Yaya ma wannan hikima ta wannan shirin ta soma. Father?
Yes. Well, it's my pleasure to be here, I must say, and thank you all for the very warm welcome that you have given to us, Bellema and me. The whole idea of Dawn in the Creeks was conceived out of a sheer desire to do something different in the Niger Delta. I'm sure you are aware of the narrative that is very prevalent everywhere about the Niger Delta. It's a place of distress, it's a place of violence, it's a place where people are kidnapped and ransom is paid, etc., etc. But yeah, we in civil society we're thinking a great deal and asking ourselves questions as to whether this really is a suitable narrative for the Niger Delta. Is this all that the Niger Delta can be associated with? And we went out to the streets and we interviewed our people and we met them and talked about it. And many people living in the Niger Delta felt that this was not the correct narrative of the region. Then we asked them the question, then what then is the narrative? So the Dawn in the Creeks is about that new narrative of the Niger Delta. So basically, what we have done with Dawn in the Creeks is that we have tried to show to the rest of Nigeria and indeed the rest of the world that there is such a thing as a new dawn in the creeks. We thought that the social contract between the people and their government had broken down completely. There was no dialogue between people and government. Beyond the elections, people having been elected normally go out and forget all the people who elected them. And there was no communication whatsoever. Amenities were hardly provided. Infrastructure was hardly put in place. And employment was not generated. People were suffering. And poverty was the order of the day. So when we went back to the people and said, what would you like your narrative to be? What is the correct narrative that you would want to be associated with you? And this is the result of it. Dawn in the Creeks is the result of that journey that we made.
To masha Allah. To zan tambaye shi Bellema wanda shine executive producer na wannan shirin. Me yasa aka shirya wannan shiri musamman domin matasa?
Okay. The truth of the matter is that the engagement, which is done in the creeks, was not just focused at the militants in the Niger Delta. It was focused primarily at the youths of the Niger Delta. And by youths, by definition, loosely, we could say, you know, I mean, young persons within the age bracket of, say, 11 or 13 years to, say, 35, 36, 37, or maybe even 38 or 39, okay? It's very difficult to place hard limits, you know, for that age bracket. Yeah. But mostly it's those that are still agitating for a means of livelihood, okay? Those who are still at crossroads trying to make major decisions that will move their lives forward. Those who still feel that if they don't do anything major, you know, there may not be a change to their economic and even their social situation. So, of course, it is from such, if you like now, fears and anxieties that the whole problem of militancy grew from, you know. People thinking that they must do something major, something violent, something
dramatic,
you know, if you like, something very, very impressive on the rest of us in Nigeria, for them to be able to, you know, at least make a statement so that their economic and their social and even political situations could change. So we targeted that audience across the region. Now, when we targeted that audience, we targeted them not with any specific particular youths in mind. You know, we just moved into random spaces. I mean, because the problems of the Niger Delta is kind of common across the entire Niger Delta. So we just moved into random spaces across 3 states, in Rivers State, Bayelsa State, and Delta State. Now, when we moved in, we didn't move in with any particular youth in mind. We went into these communities. We had a focus to pick 21 such youths, 7 from each state. It didn't really matter to us how much you had or didn't have, how much education you had or didn't have, you know, whether you were male or female. You know, we just wanted to go and pick ordinary persons. Why? Because we felt that no matter who you are, no matter where you live, no matter what your circumstances are, if the right seeds are planted in you, we are hopeful that it is very likely that you can be a change agent. Okay? Now, whether you are a university professor, a graduate of a university, or a stark illiterate, if the seeds are put in you to be positively minded, to think that you have a role and a responsibility not just to yourself or to your small community, but to the entire nation, and you suck that in and take it in, you can make a change. You know, so we just moved in and we got these 21 youths who we planned for them to be key influencers, to be examples to their generation. So we put trainings at them, which included, you know, how to tell your stories with video and with film, you know, also how to facilitate community processes, also learn how to advocate. You know, advocacy skills are key, because some of the problems we have with Nigeria is that people get frustrated when they are not able to tell their stories appropriately. But skills are required for you to be able to engage, you know, governments, engage other parties in a way that makes intelligible sense to them, to say, okay, this man is saying something. So when people discover that they don't have such skills to engage, they grow frustrated. And that frustrated is often transferred aggression, which now is defined as the violence and the anger that we see across, you know. So we took these youths, and they are there to testify, and at some point maybe you would engage them. They would tell you that their lives have been completely turned around, and they are, you know, influencing their communities around, and the stories are there for everyone to hear.
Bellema.
Yes.
Kana ganin haka an cimma nasara ko kuma haƙarka ta cimma ruwa?
I can give you a few stories from the top of my head, you know, quickly now. As we speak, each of those groups of 7 per state have organized themselves by themselves, of course, from some guidance from our end. They have organized themselves into filmmaking cells. Okay. And each of them have made a number of films that tell the stories from their own communities. And they're even working on other projects as we speak now. Like I think the Zaure team, the Delta State team, are already working on telling a story of how toxic waste was brought in from abroad and dumped in their community, you know. So, you know, that's a powerful story against environmental abuse. If that same team, too, is working on another story that would tell about the infighting whenever it is time to change the traditional stool, maybe at the death of a king or a ruler. You know, there's always this succession battles, you know. So they say that it has always been a source of crisis in their community. So they are actually working on that, and we are supporting them with some of the, you know, technical competencies necessary to make that happen. Besides that, you know, because Down in the Creeks is not just about making films or making video. You would notice that these young persons have grown practical skills that help them now to function in groups. You know, one of the major problems with Nigeria is that our young persons especially are not socialized enough. People operate from small cells and small spaces and don't even know it. They're not aware of their deficiency in socialization. They don't know that you have to, you know, function in a global village. The world has grown beyond you even thinking in terms of just your small nation, because every nation is just a small part of the universe.
In addition, we have actually taught them that the time has passed when you approach government and said, you must do this. If you don't do this, then we will do that. You know, it doesn't work like that anymore. We are teaching them the approach of, you know, approaching in a propositional way. You know, approaching government in a positive way and saying, look, you know, we see that you have many, many things that you need to think about, but for this region, we think that you can do this. And indeed, if you are willing to do that, then we can even give you the support to do it, you know. So that is a more propositional way, a more engaging way, more positive and proactive way of engaging government, rather than taking up arms and digging in and say, unless you do that, then we will not accept. You know, we are moving away from that.
To mashallah, Father Obi, ban san ko kana ganin wannan labari na Down in the Creek zai shafi ta ina zai shafi mutane da suke zama musamman a arewacin Najeriya.
I believe so. I believe so, because we have also seen from our research that the situation is similar everywhere in the country. People are struggling to engage with their governments, and their governments are elusive. They cannot really make the contact that they need for their lives to move forward. And people everywhere in the country want to be given a voice. Ordinary people have no voice anymore, and they want to be given a voice. They want to be heard. They are human beings, and they know what they want. They have their own desires, aspirations, and expectations in life. And unless they are actually allowed to speak for themselves, then that frustration hangs over them all the time. So we think that what we have experienced in the Niger Delta, what we have accomplished there, can also be accomplished here, because your youth are no different from our youth. They are all the same, and they are all looking for the same things. Every youth wants to grow up well, wants to have an education or a skill. They want to have a job, and at the appropriate time, they want to be married and to settle down and raise a family. Now, these are good aspirations anywhere in the world. So it's no different here, and we think that if we tackle the right kind of places in the youth here in the north also, they will see that we can all move in the same direction. So that this country, blessed as we are with all kinds of resources, natural, human, etc., we can become really, really the big nation that we were meant to be, without separating and saying there is north, there is south, there is east or west. We are one big nation, and we should carry ourselves like that.
Agodi. Mr. Bellema, shirin Down in the Creek ya saba da yadda muka saba ganin sauran shirye-shirye musamman na documentaries. Style da kuka yi amfani da shi ko salo da kuka yi amfani da shi ya saba. Sauti ko kuma kyan hoto da kuka kawo ya saba. Yana daga cikin abin da ya jawo hankalin masu kallon mu da yawa akan wannan shirin. Gashi dai ba da yaran mu ake amfani da shi a nan ba, amma kuma ana kallo. Me sirrin wannan?
Well, like I pointed out, and also Father Obi pointed out earlier, the whole idea was to kind of like move into spaces randomly with a blindfold, if you like, and just blindly, randomly pick 21 youth without any special criteria. Yeah. What we were wanting to test out, and we have proven that from our tests, what we wanted to test out was that any person in any part of the globe who has the right seeds sown in them is very likely, more than likely, to produce good fruit. Right. Now, so the approach was not to go with a pre-planned program as such. You know, if you have a documentary, I mean, like you have a story in mind you want to tell, you take time to research it, you put a crew together, you put up a budget, you go in and you know. But which is why it is called reality television. We just went into these spaces to see a green field, then we picked them out and said, okay, each of you is coming from a different background. Yeah. Each of you have your own histories and your own experiences and your circumstances behind you. We'll put the common seed of the thinking that you must function with other people within society. You must be propositional in all of your engagements. Life is a marketplace. You must make a, you know, you must make an offer of value to a prospect, and the value would respond with, you know, value that matches. You don't force your way into life. Even when you truly deserve a thing, you still have to market that proposition. We put that in, and it worked in all of them. Even if you watch the series closely, you'll find out that even some of them had some infightings while they were being trained. They even went to some of their traditional and old ways of threatening to kill each other, which is very commonplace in the Niger Delta now. You know, if you look at a particular episode, 2 of those children threatened to kill themselves. But the entire house brought them to look at themselves again and look at what they were doing, and they immediately apologized, and they immediately, you know, realigned themselves to each other and became best of friends. Now, that was the approach. That was what we wanted to see. We wanted them to be the mirrors to their own lives. Like you self-reflect, you introspect, you look into yourself and you judge yourself. You become your own judge. And you say, I'm really not functioning as properly as I ought to in a society of fellow men. So that was the approach. You see, the plan is to carry that approach over from just the Dawn in the Creeks project into the entire Niger Delta, and hopefully into the whole of Nigeria. It's time for all of us in Nigeria to look inwards and be our own mirror. Now, if you see, Nigeria seems to be balkanized. Everybody is thinking in terms of his region, or in terms of his village, or in terms of his clan. And we don't even know that we're thinking negatively. We are not yet aware that we are not living like human beings. Because human beings understand that human beings are the same everywhere they are. So it was that type of approach that we wanted. We wanted them to know, you know, if you remember, in the series they were taken out of their villages, out of their states, flown to Lagos. For most of them, for the majority of those 21, they confessed that it was the first time they would ever be on an airplane. It was the first time. You know, I mean, if it was the first time, for many of them, it was the first time they would ever even be in Lagos. So they came to Lagos, and I'm sure they were shocked to find out that the human beings in Lagos looked exactly like themselves. You know, because you just keep feeling that people across the border are a different species. But we're all human beings. The truth of the matter is that if youths in the Niger Delta socialize more with youths in the northern part of Nigeria, they would realize, to their great shock, that their problems are very similar. We all have the same problems. You know, there are still gender equality problems. There are still education deficiency problems. You know, you read in the statistics and you read in the papers that some states are educationally less developed. But if you go into all of the country, you find out there is an education deficiency across Nigeria, regardless. Some states may suffer it more than others, but every state suffers it. Every region suffers it. There is a shortage of employment opportunities. There is a shortage of capacity to be employed across Nigeria. These things are common across board. So the approach that we wanted to give them, because we knew the issues, but we were sure that they didn't know the issues. So we wanted to expose them to a situation that would open their eyes without warning. So they'll just come to that realization and say, wow, yeah, these problems are common. That's number one. But number two is, I have not really been functioning the way I ought to function to take myself away from being a part of the problem to being a part of the solution. Because that's the key. People must move from being a part of the problem to being a part of the solution that we're looking for.
Now, good. She down in the creek, me wa'azi ko kuma ilimantarwa ko kuma nasiha da yake ciki wanda kuke so mutane su kalla kuma su dauke shi a mazaunin darasi a wannan shirin.
Basically, in the conceptualization of dawn in the creeks, we kind of saw ourselves as having been in a period of darkness for a while. The darkness synonymous with the violence, the displacements, the agitations, kidnappings, etc. But we thought with this new momentum that we had created, there was perhaps just the possibility of a new dawn. That is why it was named like that. Dawn in the creeks, a new dawn, a new daybreak in the creeks. So that people who have lived in the creeks and thought that it was normal to threaten, to do violence, and even to actually perpetrate violence, even to their own kith and kin, would begin to see this new dawn and move in that direction and begin to live in that more propositional way. So the philosophy behind it basically is this, that within every human being there is the capacity for change. And we wanted every human being to realize that capacity by collaborating with other human beings. It is impossible for any human being to live like an island. That is impossible. We are by nature relational beings. We relate with other people, even for our very survival. So we wanted people to break away from that cocoon, from that, let us say, that exclusion of themselves from the rest of the country, from the rest of the region, and from the rest of people, to come out and to see how other people are living, to come out and to see what is it that is making other people successful, and what is making them to be employable when they themselves do not seem to be employable. Now, once we exposed people like that, it was very easy to see that these peoples had some new way of approaching life. So, and then you find that throughout the series and throughout the ongoing engagements that we have with them, these individuals have now become advocates for their communities. They are the ones now telling other youth, these things that you are doing will not lead us anywhere. Bunkering, oil theft, artisanal refining, all of these things will not lead us where we need to be. Let us re-engage with the governments. And we think that it's a good opportunity now to re-engage. And I think, even if you think of your own youth here in the north, and it's a good time to re-engage and to rethink our strategy. If we have tried it in the past, doing violence and that, and it didn't work, why do we need to go and do that again? We believe that as often as people engage proactively with the government or with all those who have the possibility of changing our lives, I think we can change.
Father Obi, kun zo Kano, me dalilin ziyararku? Kuma kuna ganin abin da kuka zo yi za a iya mai da shi can da kuka fito kuma ta ya za a yi.
Once again, I must thank you all for the very warm reception that we have received since we came yesterday. And our visit to Kano is exploratory. Yeah, we have come with a certain product that we have, namely Dawn in the Creeks. And we have come also to listen, to see whether there are similarities, whether this has resonance with your own people here in the North. And if it does have resonance, why can't we work together? We think that what we have done, the successes that we have accomplished down in the South, you can also accomplish here in the North, because your problems are similar. And indeed, going forward, it is our desire to be associated with what you are doing, and also to do things together sometimes. Maybe as Bellema pointed out, it might be even what our interest to explore the possibility of bringing youth from the North to the South, to experience how youth there are living, and to bring youth from the South to the North, so that they too can experience how youth here. And you will find out that eventually youth will discover amongst themselves that their issues are very similar. And if their issues are very similar, perhaps they may want to work together to resolve those issues.
Ban san ko Mr. Bellema yana da ƙarin bayani da zai ba.
If I drop their name, this is global television, but they know because I've been talking with them by phone. Now, Father Obi will travel back, I think, to Owerri and then to Port Harcourt tomorrow. But tomorrow, I will leave Kano for Kaduna. I have an appointment with a foundation called the Ahmadu Bello Memorial Foundation. I am meeting with the leadership of that foundation, and I have already explored with them on telephone. Tomorrow, we will make some concrete decisions. The decisions we will make are these. I'm proposing to them that Dawn and the Creeks and our Ken Sarawiwa Foundation associates that we have will propose a first exploratory and exchange meeting of leading northern lights, especially youths, coming from the northern part of Nigeria, Kano State, Kaduna State, from even Medjugorje, from Gombe State, from across the north. They would come to Port Harcourt and we would host them. We would explore and discuss issues that would cover the cleanup of Ogoni land, that will cover small arms and conflicts, that will cover employment, for example, that will cover the amnesty program. Because the truth of the matter is these are Nigerian issues and it is their country. Nobody should put any restrictions on Northerners or Westerners or Easterners from discussing the issues of the Niger Delta. They are not Niger Delta issues. They are global issues, actually. I mean, people from Ireland, people from England, people from Scotland, people from Holland, people from any land, actually, should discuss the issues of the Niger Delta because they are global issues. Now, when they come, now, we have not firmed this up, but we are working on it. When they come, and I hope that Father Obi would chair that meeting because he always does an excellent job of chairing such meetings. We will facilitate and we will make, which is why we are going to the Ahmadu Bello Memorial Foundation, because in the minds of everybody, they are like core Arewa interest people. We want to bring them to come and discuss something that is considered non-Arewa, but it is Arewa, actually, because it is Nigerian. Now, after those engagements, we will listen to their solutions and their recommendations, and we will make them feel comfortable enough to talk about these issues freely. Then we will facilitate to take them around the core governors of the Niger Delta states. They will go to the government house of Rivers State and meet with the governor. Meet with the governor of Bayelsa State. Bayelsa State is the home state of the immediate past president of Nigeria. You understand? We will take them there to see that governor and then go to Delta State. Then they will return to the north. And on a later date, we from the Niger Delta will come to the north too. Maybe Kano, maybe Kaduna. I think Kaduna is more appropriate. And then we will following the agenda that our partners who would have come and gone would talk about, you know, the insurgency in the Northeast, small arms, small political toggery groups, the deficiency in education, gender rights, I mean, disease, I mean, all the agriculture, thrift, small and medium enterprises. After we talk about these issues, they too will facilitate, we will visit with the governors of Kano State, the governor of Kaduna State, and I think we will love, and we will make that request to visit with the Emir of Kano, who is a leading light, a global leading light. You know,
mind you, the Emir of Kano is well respected in the south of Nigeria.
And in the Niger Delta.
Yeah. The Niger Delta.
I mean, because of his forthrightness and his stance against corruption, and his sheer brilliance and his academic achievements that are very well known, you know, and his professional excellence. You know, he's a mentor from a distance for many of us, including myself. You know, so we want this osmosis. So if you ask, why are we here? It's for osmosis. It's for diffusion. It's for exchange. You know, it's for breaking down the barriers. All the issues within northern Nigeria are my issues. And I'm not going to let anybody put a barrier or blackmail me into thinking I should concern myself with my regional issues. Whatever happens in Maiduguri affects me. Just as whatever happens in the heart of Ogoni land, or in the heart of Ijaw land, or in the heart of Otueke in Bayelsa State, affects the average northern youth in Kano, in Kaduna, in Gombe State, in Maiduguri. This is why we are here.
Thank you, gentlemen. Masu kallon mu mun ɗau lokaci muna tattaunawa da mutum biyu waɗanda suka ƙware a makamar aikinsu. Waɗannan mutum biyu su ne Fada Obi da Mr. Bellema, waɗanda suka yi tattake tun daga Niger Delta suka zo har nan Kano da shirinsu da muke nuna a shirye-shiryenmu, wato Down in the Creeks. Kun ji irin abubuwan da suka zo da shi da tsarabar da suka zo mana da shi. Da fatan duk abubuwan da suka faɗa za mu ɗauka, za kuma mu aiki da su ya zama abin amfano a gare mu, musamman ga ku matasa. Da wannan bayanin nake so in ce ni da na shirya na kuma gabatar a madadin su bakin namu, mu zauna lafiya.
Lafiya.
Thank you.